Hello, and welcome to Reflections on Film. In this video, I'll be doing something a little uncharacteristic. I'm going to tell you a more personal story than what I've put out in the past. You see, the truth is that I love bad movies. All kinds of bad movies. They just make me laugh. Sometimes they make me laugh so hard I cry. I love movies with terrible acting.
If you want someone killed, I'm afraid you'll have to deal with me.
Embarrassing rip-offs.
Yes, it could. Let's go and check it out in our cat computer system.
Bad dummies. Delusional filmmakers.
You take me for a ride. Come on, pretty baby, let's do the shimmy slide. Hot damn!
Laughable special effects. Awkward dubbing.
Man, what's
So
up with
what
your
I do
boy?
at it?
What's up?
You
What's
get
happening with you, aight?
Nonsensical violence. And just all sorts of gloriously embarrassing miscues, mistakes, and general incompetence. But we won't be talking about any of those films here today. No, there won't be any so bad it's good laughter for us. I mean, at least outside of the clips I'll be pulling for cheap heat. No, we'll be digging into Star Wars Episode 9, Rise of Skywalker, one of my absolute favorite movies of all time. A bad movie that I loved not because it made me laugh, but actually because it made me cry. No, not tears of laughter this time. Tears of real joy. What? No clip here? No joke? Yeah, that's right, because I actually cried at a J.J. Abrams directed Star Wars movie. In a packed theater, surrounded by strangers, and I'm only a little embarrassed to admit it. Now, before you start arguing about how this movie made no sense and it should be impossible for anyone to like it, let me take you back to the wonderful year of 2016, a pre-pandemic world where hopes were still high for this new Disney-branded sequel trilogy. The Force Awakens was released 1 year earlier, and while not everyone loved it, most people agreed it was at least a good jumping off point for a new series of movies. This is when I decided to jump back on the YouTube horse and put together a video about Return of the Jedi that I'd wanted to make for a long time. See, I always had this idea that at the end of Return of the Jedi, the Emperor couldn't have just wanted Luke to turn to the dark side. He never really offered Luke anything, and it just didn't add up that Luke would simply turn and join him. Especially after the Emperor tried to make Luke kill his own father. I don't know, it just seems like when you force someone to commit patricide in order to save their friends from certain death whom you are holding hostage in an ongoing space battle while fighting for ultimate authority over an entire galaxy, there's not much chance that person will end up being friends with you afterwards. But that's just the general interpretation I'd always heard. The Emperor just sort of expected Luke to join him, for some reason. But I thought otherwise. So in 2016, I made a video to talk about my interpretation. To talk about how it might be possible that the Emperor didn't just want Luke as an apprentice, but really wanted to transfer his life force directly into Luke's body. He was looking for some of that sweet, sweet immortality. And Luke was the target. Yeah, it was a fun video to make, full of what I thought were interesting takes on the Star Wars universe. I guess you could say I was pretty proud of it.
You're gonna be so proud.
Proud?
Proud.
But in 2018, that video was pulled from YouTube due to a community guidelines violation. I didn't really understand the claim against my video. I think it was about the fact that I said self-sacrifice a bunch in it. Someone thought I was talking about real life stuff and not just movie metaphors. But being the genius I am, I didn't really ask any questions, and I filed my appeal as if my video had received a copyright claim, because that's really the only thing that made sense to me. My appeal was, of course, denied. When that happened, to be honest, I was pretty sad. I couldn't challenge the decision or get a second appeal. It felt like all my work had been wasted, and after a while, I just had to let bygones be bygones. And then I saw Rise of Skywalker. And it was the greatest movie-going experience of my life. And that's why we have to talk about my reaction to this film before we wrap up my personal story with YouTube drama. So let's take some time to dig into why I love this movie so much. Because I know that so many of my fellow Star Wars fans really didn't like the movie. Like, at all.
I don't want to say if you legitimately like this film, you have a low IQ, but if you legitimately like this film, you have a low IQ.
Ooh, ouch. That one hurts to hear, because I really like those guys. But I mean, they're kind of right, so. But ultimately, when it comes to The Rise of Skywalker, I'm not joking when I use the word love. I was hooked from the first frame to the last. Yeah, even that weird moment where Chewie got a medal, just like his recently deceased friend got 30 years ago. But me, I was fucking loving it. Right off the bat, the first words in the title crawl. The Emperor is back and he's gonna fuck shit up. Now, as much as I'd like to just talk about Rise of Skywalker, I really have to jump back even further and go into some of the details from the previous movie in the saga, The Last Jedi, in order to fully flesh out my thoughts on the new sequel trilogy and how it affected what we got in Rise of Skywalker. Again, I'm probably going to be at odds with a lot of people when I say that I liked The Last Jedi. I mean, I get the criticisms. There was no story progression. The protagonist hero who goes in search of a master winds up without a master at the end of the film, without having learned anything all that valuable about the Force. I mean, do I even have to make a joke about her lifting the rocks? There's been so many. And ultimately, Rey still doesn't have anyone to teach her at the end of that movie, except Leia. But wait, why did she even have to find Luke then? I don't know. To me, it just felt like not much was moved forward with the narrative. And of course, who doesn't love a good subversion? Oh, wait, the whole movie is one big subversion? Yikes. I mean, I know that things happened. Snoke died, Kylo ascended to Supreme Leader, Rey was, I guess, lied to about her parents. Oh, and Finn. Wait, what was Finn doing in that movie again? Oh, yeah, that's right. Anyway, I saw that a lot of people were upset with the Emperor's return in Rise of Skywalker. And I think a lot of that boils down to the fact that there was pretty much no setup for this guy to come back for the conclusion of this new trilogy. But for me, seeing that the Emperor was back and that they didn't even care about showing his face on screen before revealing he would be the main villain, that just warmed the cockles of my heart. Because I wanted Rise of Skywalker to do what The Last Jedi didn't do for me. And that was to tell an interesting middle section for this new trilogy. This breakneck pacing in Rise of Skywalker told me we were going to do a lot of narrative work, because The Last Jedi really dropped the ball on that note. That's right, Rian Johnson. Another armchair internet loudmouth is taking the bold stance of saying that your movie wasn't really all that good. But you know, just sort of okay, so that's not too bad, right?
Everybody, I misjudged this.
So the pacing of Rise of Skywalker starts fast and it doesn't really let up. And because of that, I started to think of it as being two separate films that were sort of pushed together to make one overblown mess of an adventure film. The first hour tells us a story more along the lines of what I would like to have seen in The Last Jedi. And if we draw parallels between where Rey and Luke are at in their respective journeys, then we really see that when Rey leaves Leia to go help her friends at the beginning of Rise of Skywalker, it really lines up more with the second half of Empire Strikes Back than it does with Return of the Jedi. And to me, the reason for this seems to be the way Rian Johnson handled The Last Jedi. Again, I'm not saying The Last Jedi was the worst movie ever. That's obviously the happening.
Planning on stealing something?
No, ma'am, we're not.
Plan on murdering me in my sleep?
What? No.
We're packing hot dogs for the road. You know, hot dogs get a bad rap. They got a cool shape, they got protein. You like hot dogs, right?
Yeah, that movie was so bad I had to pull a couple of clips. I mean, what? Hot dogs? But I digress from my current point, which is that the first half of Rise of Skywalker matches up so well with the second half of Empire Strikes Back. In both movies, we see our protagonists leave in the middle of their training, against their master's wishes, in order to find and help their friends, who our protagonists sense are in danger. Just like Luke, we also see Rey go on a journey of self-discovery leading to the revelation of her parentage. And I really like Rey's journey. I know it suffers from that classic J.J. Abrams, get the thing so you can find the place and destroy the big bad guy plot. So in some ways it feels tired. But really, I don't watch these movies expecting to be blown away by some complex plot structure. I watch mostly for the visual metaphors, for things like Rey being sucked into a literal underworld where she and her group of friends encounter a gigantic snake. I mean, I can't think of a better visual metaphor for overcoming one's fear of death than to literally heal the wounds of an angry serpent in the bowels of a hellish maze of caves. And while in Empire we only saw Luke's journey, in Rise of Skywalker we get to see both Rey and Kylo Ren grow and develop. We couldn't see Vader's journey in Empire because his identity had to be kept a secret until the final reveal. So in some ways, I think you could say that Rise of Skywalker has a slightly more complex story and maybe even more to work with than Empire.
Bitch, are you for real?
Hold on now. That doesn't mean that I think Rise of Skywalker is better. But I love the fact that this series was able to tell these parallel stories and find new ways to keep things interesting. So we see Rey and Kylo go on journeys of discovery, bringing us to the point of the movie which I think would make for the natural ending of a second film in this sequel trilogy, which is when Rey finds out that she is the granddaughter of Emperor Palpatine. Oh, she's got spooky Sith blood. I know a lot of people hated this, but I loved it. If I loved the fact that the Emperor was back, of course I would love Rey being a Palpatine. I didn't see it coming, and I wasn't down on the Emperor, so for me this wasn't some kind of facepalm moment. To me, this was a great idea that worked perfectly within my understanding of the Emperor's goals. And if we look at this plot point as the conclusion to a second film in the saga, then the parallels to Empire become very clear once again. Vader wanted Luke to join him and take down the Emperor so they could rule together, just like Kylo offered his hand to Rey. If this were the end of a second movie, I think speculation would have run crazy about whether or not these two would team up. Would they end up dueling? If they teamed up, would they be light or dark, Jedi or Sith? Now, while this is where I would have had my ideal second film end, that doesn't mean there aren't things in The Last Jedi that I don't love. I think the way that film sets up Rey and Kylo's connection through the Force is compelling to watch. I think Luke's rage and subsequent self-doubt make for a really interesting story as well. So I don't think The Last Jedi should be erased from existence. I really feel like parts of that movie that worked for me could be edited down and sort of fused with the first half of Rise of Skywalker to make for a really interesting Star Wars film. I think having Luke sacrifice himself at the halfway point of the second movie would be an excellent turning point in the narrative. With Luke gone, Rey would be the only real hope for the Resistance left. Then when she makes the choice to leave, it would seem like a response to the loss of Luke, and not just a jumping off point for this third story. I like to think about what could have been, but ultimately I'm still happy to call myself a fan of what we got. Which brings me back to the beginning of this essay and the discussion of a video I released back in 2016, which got pulled from YouTube and I wasn't able to get back. I cried at the end of Rise of Skywalker, and that stupid video I made is part of the reason. In the closing scenes of Rise of Skywalker, I saw my interpretation of the Emperor's actions in Return of the Jedi play out on screen, right before my very eyes. Things that I guessed might be the case based on examining the lore of this universe were explicitly stated in the dialogue of Rise of Skywalker. And yeah, that made me cry because, I don't know, it feels good to be right. But that feeling of joy was quickly undercut by a feeling of loss, a sort of sadness, because I knew my video was gone and I doubted anyone would ever see it. Certainly not with that original upload date attached. Now, it's hard to be on YouTube and make the claim that you're not here to get famous, that you don't want people to validate your opinions and tell you that you're awesome for having those opinions. Of course, that's what I want. But for me, this channel is more than just a pipe dream of fame or riches. I honestly try to learn from the process of making my videos and grow as a person. So I was torn. I really wanted that validation, but also I didn't want to ruin my channel to make videos about things that I've lost. And I felt stuck for a long time. That is until August of 2022 rolled around. I don't know what happened. I'm not even going to take the time to research what changes were made at YouTube to make it possible, but one lazy afternoon, I decided to check in on my channel, and there it was. A curious little note on the restrictions tab of my Return of the Jedi video, asking if I wanted to start a review of my video's removal. My heart skipped. I initiated the review, submitted it, and less than half an hour later, I witnessed a literal miracle. My video was alive again. And so here I am, telling you my Star Wars story, hoping you'll find this video in good taste and not just pandering for sympathy. The truth is that I love this saga. I love every movie from every trilogy. I don't care if they're considered good or bad films. And that's okay because every movie is a great movie and a terrible movie to somebody. I mean, I'm sure even Neil Breen has convinced one or two people that his films are more than desperate cries for help from a very sick individual.
I've eliminated 300 million humans from the planet today. In human terms, I have killed them all.
Yeah, even that guy's movie might be someone's favorite movie. Unironically. Because ultimately whether a movie is good or not comes down to subjective taste and personal experience. If you can pull something of value out of a movie, then no one can tell you it's not good. Not even Neil Breen.
There are genetic and psychological limits to the primitive human species. And you have reached those limits.
And that's where I'll be wrapping up this video. Wow, what a discussion we've had. A couple of times I hope I made you laugh. Maybe I even made you cry. I don't know, maybe neither. Either way, if you want to check out my Return of the Jedi video from 2016, well, by God, for the first time in years, you can find a working link in the description box below. Once again, this has been Reflections on Film, and as always, thanks for watching.